Grandparents' rights is something that's becoming increasingly important today because of problems with drugs and parents who just simply are not fit to be raising their own children. And it's not uncommon for me to have situations where a parent is voluntarily looking to have a family member, maybe the grandparent, raise the child, and it's not even necessarily something that requires an adversarial proceeding. Sometimes it's done by agreement. But the question of grandparents' rights, now that brings into play grandparents wanting to be involved, whether someone else wants them to or not. And there is a sense that grandparents should be involved. But there is an even stronger sense, and it's not just a sense, it's actually in the decisions that govern the land, that absent some extreme circumstance, parents have constitutional right to be raising their children as they see fit if they're not harming the children. And that right includes the right to determine who will be in the child's life. And so a parent who is considered perfectly competent and raising this child in a good way retains the right, to the chagrin of his or her parents, to say those grandparents might not be involved. So then I think it's good then to jump to, well, when do grandparents' rights apply? When is that a thing in the law? And it comes into play when, for whatever reason, one parent isn't in the picture. If I'm a grandparent and my son is raising his child, it's up to my son whether and if I'm involved in that child's life. But if my son is out of the picture, maybe he's deceased, maybe he disappeared, maybe he's incarcerated, if he's out of the picture in some way like that, I can assert grandparent rights in that situation. In some sense, sort of stepping into his shoes legally to assert that right. His spouse, ex-spouse, whatever the situation is, might still be involved, but she wouldn't be able to necessarily preclude me from at least asserting grandparents' rights and asking the court to consider whether I should be involved. If my son is involved and his spouse isn't, I don't get to assert rights. Grandma doesn't get to assert rights because our child is still involved in that last situation. So grandparents' rights very much is something that stems from their child no longer being involved in the situation.